Morning, Sean.
Good morning, Kylie Lane.
Thank you for the Zoom. And the reason why I wanted it is because I was talking to a girlfriend and she's seen all the Facebook posts of how much money people are making with the automated, 90% automated system. And I was hoping that you would be able to give me basically a rundown that I can explain to her on how the system works, because I'm having trouble explaining it to her when I haven't gotten too far into it myself. So, and for the last 6 months, I've been trying to, I have contacted people saying, how does the system work? Because as a an ex-network marketer, I'm going, is it direct sales? Are you contacting your friends and family? And these are the sorts of questions that she's asking me. And I don't have the answers for her because nobody was able to give me the answers. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to shed some light on that and tell us exactly what we need to know in order for us to stop being excited for everybody else and get involved in this ourselves.
Well, it's an interesting story for me, Kylie, because now I do understand it. But honestly, when I was seeing those stories, it was a bit blah 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 to me. I've seen those success stories in network marketing before. They were always a bit vague to me about like kind of what you're saying and your friend is saying, like, so how is this actually happening? And it was very easy for me to dismiss it. Now, it is an interesting story for me because the product that's being offered, I was part of that company 2 years ago, loved the product in December of 2016, made $15,000 marketing the product, but realized other people couldn't because it's a high margin, high profit product, which is a good thing if you can replicate that. And that's part of what this system does, which is freaky to me, but true. So my point though is that I've always loved the product, was able to market it myself. But after December 2016, when I made that money, I kind of pulled back because I realized that not everybody was able to do it. And then the system is in my ear, which started about 6 months after that. But I was preoccupied and didn't pay attention. But was interesting, I'm just giving a little backstory here. What was interesting is that I was enrolled. And so some of the people that I had enrolled up until that December 2016 started using the system. And I started getting passive income, which was great. But I actually thought that's great for them, but I didn't, what's the word? It didn't have gravitas for me that I should pay attention to it. Again, I was preoccupied with other things. And then I started seeing the stories. And again, it's blah, blah, blah to me until one magic day in my life when our friend, Barbara, and we both know Barbara to be a very high integrity woman. And I saw her posting and people from her team posting, remembering that this is also part of my team because I'd introduced Barbara to the product, that she had made $15,000 in a day. Now, that was when I finally decided, how is this actually? So I'm seeing all these bigger stories, right? Like 100K in 100 days and 80K in 90 days. And there was another 100K in 7 months, something like that. And 7K a day. I started at 7K a week. And again, I wasn't paying attention, but this was like in front of me. A friend of mine, part of my team. Otherwise, I probably still would not have paid attention. So I guess if anyone's watching this recording and they are like me, I completely understand. Like, that's the degree to which it took for me to pay attention. And I must say that since paying attention, I've met another fellow on my team. His name is Troy. Troy's a scaffolder. He has no entrepreneurial background, no sales background. He's a scaffolder who is now retired to Bali, thanks to the system. And just recently, I met a fellow that he's brought onto his team by using the system, Harry, who's a 20-year-old club guy who's a DJ. But he's entrepreneurial. It kind of reminds me of me when I was 20. and that was big for me because I thought, because my first website, Kylie, was lifeofchoice.com. And I sure wish I had that domain now. I just noticed actually it's for sale for $1,600. I might just buy it again. But that was 30 years ago. And so that's all I've ever wanted to do. And so honestly, and I feel shivers in my body now, knowing and loving Barbara, and knowing that she's attempting to have a life of choice for her and her family, have Bill leave his business, which is consuming, support the children in their endeavors. And then I see Troy, the scaffolder. Like, imagine how many scaffolders would love to retire to Bali. You know, and then I'm telling you, Harry got me because he reminded me of me, this little clubbing music guy. And I thought to myself, and he's at almost near the top of the compensation plan. I thought, imagine when I was 20, clubbing, and I was making the kind of money that Harry's making, what that would have been like for me. And so I'm moved by the fact that these people that are close to me and that I can verify because they're in my genealogy, that this is actually happening for them. It's not just a story on Facebook for me. And so then I'm like, and again, going back, I watched or started to watch the original webinar. And honestly, Kylie, I don't know if I got more than 6 minutes into it where I was like, I've seen this before. To be honest, I was kind of like, really? This is it? Because it was nothing new or earth-shattering to me. But when this all happened, I watched the webinar again, and I'll tell you how I watched it, though. This was a big shift for me. I've learned, Kylie, that this system is not for you and me and probably your friend, and that's why we're not getting it. This is big. It's for the person who is working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, wants more time with their family, and doesn't like their boss, been doing it for 10, 20, however many years, and wants more income. That person who's in that pain, particularly around the time with the family, because I'm seeing them now in the Facebook group scrolling, and I'm in awe. To be honest, there's something like 1,400 people in the group, and over 300 of them have left their full-time jobs for the income they're making with the 90% automated system. And I can see them, and they're not the ordinary affiliate network marketing success people. They're people who had jobs, and they all talk about it like it's normal. And like, oh, there's another one left a job. And I'm like, wow, like this is people actually achieving, going back to my original website, a life of choice. And that's it for me. I've always done well financially in my life, but I've always just wanted to, you know me, I have a natural gift assessment. I want people to be living in their gifts, living what they're here to do, and having a life of choice. And so the evidence was overwhelming. And so as I'm watching the webinar, I'm watching it from that person's perspective. And then I get into the actual system. And I have to tell you that it's not overstated to say it blew my marketing mind. I didn't get 20 minutes into the final 2-hour video where I started messaging people like yourself and people close to me, because then I got it. And to be honest, I was a little annoyed. And the reason I was annoyed was because somebody has put together a genius architecture, and nobody told me that this was true. They would just say things like, just listen to the webinar, or it's just this very nothing. So what I want to do now for you and anybody watching this is break down the genius. And you know me, Kylie, I don't use the word genius lightly at all. So in answer to your question with that backdrop, I was listening. So the first thing is I call it a tension gap. Tension, T-E-N-S-I-O-N, tension. There's a tension created that I honestly, I look at it and I go, did they know they were creating the tension gap, or did they get lucky? Because nobody explains it. Now, it's genius done, so it looks like they knew, but I don't know why nobody's explaining it. so that I could understand it. So it's you know me, I'm a direct response copywriter for 20 years. There's a whole training called reason why copy. Like if you give people the reason why, you know me as a speaker trainer, they have an aha moment, and now they can understand. That's what happened to me. I'm 20 minutes in, boom, aha moment. This thing is genius, and it's 90% automated. And again, Kylie, you know me, I'm skilled. You know, I've been at this for marketing, copywriting, selling for 30 years. And generally when I'm involved with something, a lot of the responsibility comes back on me to do the work because I'm good at it. And that it's just that. It puts a lot of responsibility and time on me. And I too want a life of choice. So as I'm going through and I get to the 20 minutes, I start believing, Kylie Lane, that I'm not going to be needed in this venture. And that was what I wanted to test. And so now I'm actually 8 for 11, everyone. 8 for 11 going through the system. And I'm going to explain this tension gap in a moment that makes it work without me. I just had a woman message me say I'm filling out the financial paperwork. I haven't spoken to her. I just put her in the system. That's a big one, by the way, the financial paperwork. Wait till I get to that piece. Okay, so the tension gap. Here's the tension gap. Or the person who's working 50 plus hours a week, doesn't like it, doesn't like the traveling back and forth, wants to be at home with their family more, wants more income, and is tired of this schedule. When they hear those income stories, when they hear 90% automated online platform, it does something for them. If nothing else, it creates hope that they can get out of that situation that they want to get out of. So for that person, that webinar has gravitas. They haven't heard it all before, like you and I and anyone listening to this, excuse me. And then at the end of the webinar, there's only brief mention of the product. Only brief mention of the product. Now, again, me as a copywriter, I understand the potency of creating curiosity. I was a very highly paid copywriter and copywriting trainer, and my secret sauce was I was very good at creating curiosity. Meaning when you put a promo out, rather than just saying, here's why you should buy from me, I was able to create curiosity so people would move in and go, what is this thing? And that means that instead of having resistance to being sold to, they're actually naturally curious, naturally taking in the information, and more apt to want to buy. And so part of the reason that you don't give all the product details is because there's too much to say about this product, so I believe that there's a balance to be had, which I'm about to create, where you can still maintain curiosity. So the reason I don't talk much about the product, this is part of what people would say to me, including yourself, Kyle, like, why don't they tell what the product is? Another friend of mine too, like, I was annoyed. They didn't tell me what the product was. And I understand that. And what we're really saying is, just give us some reason to believe there's some substance to it, that, you're not, doing us blind. But for me, also maintain the curiosity element. I understand that element. So it would go something like this. It's a high profit, high margin health product, patent pending, medical grade, developed by a wealthy Japanese company, with their business plan being a 1,000-year business plan. So in other words, it's a really significant health product. I'll whisper in your ear, it's alkalizing water. And if you don't know about alkalizing water, you want to know about alkalizing water. And one of the reasons I tell you that is so you understand it's water. Like what every single person on the planet is primarily made of. And part of the aha moment in the system is they realize the water they're drinking now isn't as good for them as they thought. So they want something else. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But the webinar for that target audience, the goal is to create curiosity, which the income stories do, the 90% automated, the whisper of what the product is, that it's a high margin, high profit, and it's an affiliate product, so there's nothing to create. And then the beauty is they're not being asked to buy the product. They're being asked to trial the system. 14-day, no risk trial of this online system that's created these types of incomes and freedom for people. Now, for that target customer, that's an easy yes. So the stories and the whisper of the product, the 90% automated, create that motivation. I want that. I'll do the trial. Now, here's the tension gap, what I call it. So now they have this installed within them that there's a chance that this system is going to get me financially free. Part of the system is, to that target customer, a high-value coaching call. High-value coaching call. They can't wait to get to the coaching call. So they've got this tension of financial freedom to get out of the position they're in. And that in order to go from that motivation, self-motivated, the webinar does it for you, and now they're self-motivated. You don't have to nudge them, send them follow-up or anything. They want to get to the coaching call. And the tension gap is what happens in between, Kylie. And there's 3.5 hours of coaching they need to do, which has value to them, that they get for trialing the system. And now they're just going to do the 3.5 hours of business coaching, mindset coaching, and education required before they get to the coaching call. Now, again, you know that I think in terms of architecture. I've done the architecture of interviewing an expert, the architecture of a brand, the architecture of a sales letter, the architecture of a well-crafted presentation. And as I'm watching this unfold for that person, the person with the 50+ hour work week, I'm imagining them going through it. And when you take, please, everyone watching this, please do take the trial yourself. Just a sample. So, and imagine that you're this average person going through it and what impact it would have for that person. I promise you, you can't get to the end of it, and here's why. I want to have my own reality TV show. And so I've studied the architecture of a successful reality TV show. And part of that, of any TV show really. And so part of that, if you watch any television show, is they change the camera often, because we get bored quickly. So I have had $3,500 per month clients paying me a 20% dividend on their business, and I found it hard to hold their attention. I'm watching this and I can't believe that they're going to hold somebody's attention for 3.5 hours. Imagine anybody watching this, you, Kylie, imagine you wanting to explain your business, whatever that is, and you just say to somebody, listen, I just want you to sit down and learn and educate yourself on my business for 3.5 hours so you can better understand the value I have to you. Nobody's going to do that. I know we're trying to get 5 minutes of some time. If we get 15 minutes of someone's undivided attention, we consider that fortunate. So the architecture here is, they're first of all, the gap, right? They've got the financial freedom motivation, the coaching call motivation, 3.5 hours in between. They've got to set their goals, set their intentions, get them thinking about how their life is going to be different, some business coaching. And then the last 2.5 hours is like a reality TV show, a hit series, if you will, because they've got about 5 or 6 different people talking, and they're flipping it back and forth, just like the camera angle changing. So we hold their attention, and they're threading throughout this mindset coaching, business coaching, and education, what they're threading through it, and it doesn't feel like it at all, is product testimonials and more income testimonials to hold their attention. Now, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're getting business coaching and mindset coaching and getting educated on this affiliate idea, etc. But unbeknownst to them is this repeated reiteration of product and income stories holds their attention for the entire, like, I couldn't believe it when I first started doing it, that busy people, nobody I'm approaching isn't super duper busy. And here's what I would hear. Sean, I can't get to it today, but I'll get to it over the weekend whilst I'm doing blank, like whilst I'm watching my child at soccer, or, they're all of a sudden going to squeeze this into their schedule because of this self-motivated, or because they're installed with the self-motivation. And so they get through all of that. They get educated on this product, this alkalizing water unit now. The issue with this product is it requires education. And I used to, remember, market the item before the system. And I know what it's like trying to educate people. It's brilliant, but it requires education. But everyone going through the system is sitting, learning about this product and getting educated. And at the end of that education, guess what? Everybody is left with. I understand the value of this item. I want the item. I just don't know if I can afford it. That's literally where every person get naturally. You're not doing it naturally. They just get to that point. So in other words, to me, it's organic. It's buying psychology, a natural, organic buying psychology. How you and me naturally come to a conclusion that we would like to buy. No hard selling, no closing. That's what some people think. You know, when they hear coaching call, they think that's a fancy term for a closer. They're not taught to close. By the time they they go through that, and then they actually sit and learn about the compensation plan. Now, Kylie, you've been in network marketing. How often do people actually, even when they're in the business, sit and fully understand the ins and outs of the compensation plan? But again, for these people, they've got this financial freedom element motivating them. They can't get to the coaching call until they take in this information. And by the way they stagger it, you have to do it in order. You can't skip ahead. You can't get to module 2 until you've completed module 1. And I've coached people, and that's what you want them to do. You're trying, Kylie, when we did events, we would hold back information so they wouldn't get distracted. And it's all freaking automated. So then they get to the coaching call, they want and understand the value of the product. They understand the compensation. And when they get to the coaching call, they now just have questions about how they might get started. And then the pièce de la résistance, Kylie Lane, they find out that this product that they now want for themselves and their family can be financed. And there's options available to them to finance it. And that locks it down, that they want it, they understand its value, and they just want one. They're just not sure if they can afford it. The finance it. Check this out, everyone. The company that manufactures the product will actually finance the purchase. This is one of the options. Will finance the purchase without a credit check. It makes it affordable. This high ticket, high margin product, once people are educated, every person, right? It's water. Every single household wants one. This is why people are making the money they are, because of now, if what I just told you there is true, that you can 90% automate that, then you might ask, what's the remaining 10%? It's just getting people to the webinar. That's it. That's your job. Now, I'm a copywriter. We have 3 ways to do that. One is social media posting, templated posts for your social media that get response, put people to the webinar. That's it. Templated. They say it's 90%. I think it's like 98%. I don't know what the 10% is. You just put a post on your social media, send them to the webinar. Oh, and by the way, the coach isn't you, it's somebody in the system. Like, you don't have to do any of that. And so you can post. I have my own strategy that I built my 7-figure speaking business from, which is private messaging on both Facebook and LinkedIn. Again, a templated message that I've worked to get my own response. And then I realized this, Kylie, in the system. As you know, and have paid to attend, I have a I don't do it anymore, but I had a $15,000 8-day marketing training I called the Big Brand University. And 2 days of that was Facebook ads training. Now, inside this system that you can trial, if you're watching this, for $99 for 14 days risk-free, inside that training, not only is there everything I just mentioned that you should walk through so you experience it, is a better training than what I would have valued at $3,000 to $3,500 that I used to charge clients for. And so when you hear there's Facebook ads training included, my mind automatically goes to is, oh, that's going to be some kind of basic Facebook training that I can Google or go to YouTube. It is not. It is a $3,000 Facebook ads training right there for everyone to use. So from my perspective, you can have a VA learn that, you can learn it, and then I write your ad. So this is what happened with my partner Kylie, another Kylie. She's been a primary caregiver for our new son, David. He's gone to going to daycare. Kylie's going back to work. And so of all of the things that she could do, you can bet a 90% automated system was her number one pick. She went through all the training, believe me, especially Facebook ads. She's not a tech person at all. So the fact that she was motivated enough to get through that was telling. And then at the end of it, she just said, would you write my ad for me? And that's all we have to do. You post on Facebook, you send a message, I write your ad, and then you just send the leads into the system. We are blowing this thing up. I can't believe that all I have to do is those little bits at the end. That is a huge, huge reduction in responsibility for me as it is for anyone. I would encourage anyone to please take up the offer, walk through the webinar, again, thinking about that person working a 50-60 hour work week. And then I can't do it justice, to be honest, as much as I've talked about the points here. Just commit yourself. You know those stories, right? Well, here's one you haven't heard. My friend, Clint, who introduced me to the water 2 years ago, before there was a system, who was a broke personal trainer, who worked for me on an hourly wage. When I said to him, Clint, so what's your story? Because he had been reluctant to tell me. But now that I'm getting reactivated, I said, I need to know your story. $900,000 in the last 8 months. Now, when you hear that, just like you're doing, Kylie, you can go into disbelief. And I hesitate to tell the number, but I'm a truth teller. And so I want you to know that is true. And when you see all those other stories, and if you could imagine that those stories are true, then you can imagine the guy that started it, that might be true. And if nothing else, it warrants you sampling, trialing the system. So Kylie, I would encourage you to please trial the system, have your friend to trial the system with that in mind. And I promise you'll come out the other end thinking, oh my God, and just think about this. Have you ever tried to put together a marketing funnel yourself? Anybody watching this? It can cost a lot of time. Kylie, you've done it, right? Time, energy, and money, and then not work. And if it does work, it tends to be fragile. So please don't take it for granted what I am telling you, that somebody has created a marketing funnel that on the other end of it spits out people buying of their own volition, no closing required, a high profit margin for you, and all you have to do is follow our little templated one of those 3 processes to get people into the system. If you want freedom, you've got to trial this system. Did I answer your questions, Kylie?
You did. So can you send me through the relevant links, please?
I can. Everyone, if you have any questions, contact me. Kylie, you're a gem. I appreciate you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye.
Bye.